Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of our nonprofit organization, the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp, or CRRH, and our affiliated nonprofit, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation. So we are happy to bring you another exciting show. Tim Pate is here with John Cornett. How are you doing, folks?
Alive and well.
You were sure sounding good in the rehearsal moments ago.
Oh, thank you.
So it's probably going to be quite good here in just a few minutes when they play. Want to buy a few crucial seconds, however, by bringing on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, we're glad to bring back our hemp news segment. Tonight's story comes from the internet. YouTube has decided to censor marijuana questions from President Obama. Today, from Washington, D.C., moderators of a February 1st live YouTube debate with President Barack Obama failed to ask any questions regarding marijuana policy, even though the topic was the top vote getter on the website CitizenTube's State of the Union poll. Members of the public submitted over 14,000 questions to YouTube, which had promised to pose the most popular questions to the president. The three questions that gained the highest total of public votes all pertain to legalizing marijuana. However, YouTube representatives have not provided any official explanation as to why the questions were omitted from the debate. In 2009, publicly submitted questions regarding marijuana legalization topped several other White House-related polls, including surveys conducted by Change.org and WhiteHouse.gov. Marijuana legalization is not a political liability. It's a political opportunity. It's unfortunate that the majority of politicians still fail to acknowledge this fact. But we here at Cannabis Common Sense will keep bringing that news to you. From Rockville, Maryland, Americans over 50 are using marijuana in greater numbers, according to survey data compiled by the United States Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Association, or SAMHSA. Among men aged 50 to 54, nearly 9% admitted to having used marijuana within the past year. Among males aged 50 to 60, over 4% said they'd used cannabis. While the federal government refuses to acknowledge that marijuana has a legitimate role as a medicine, in particular one that can offset many of the symptoms and conditions associated with aging, it's nevertheless apparent that a growing percentage of the public, and older Americans especially, are becoming increasingly aware of this plant's safety and efficacy. Among females aged 50 to 54, 4% admitted to having used cannabis in the previous year. A SAMHSA representative stated, quote, in a press release, quote, "This new data has profound implications for the health and well-being of older adults who continue to abuse substances. These findings highlight the need for prevention programs for all ages, as well as to establish improved screening and appropriate referral to treatment as part of the routine health care services." The full text of this study, Illicit Drug Use Among Older Adults, is available online from SAMHSA at www.oas.samhsa.gov. Anyway, unfortunately, the federal government still thinks we all deserve to be put in prison and treatment, but that is not the case, and so we'll talk more about that in just a minute. We have another story, though. The federal agency in charge of marijuana research admits that it's stifling studies on medicinal cannabis. NIDA does, quote, not fund research focused on the potential medical benefits of marijuana, end quote. Once again, from Rockville, Maryland, a spokesman for the National Institute on Drug Abuse, or NIDA, told the New York Times last week that the agency, quote, does not fund research focused on the potential medical benefits of marijuana, end quote. Under federal law, the agency must approve all clinical and preclinical research involving marijuana. NIDA strictly controls which investigators are allowed access to the federal government's lone research supply of cannabis, which is produced and stored at the University of Mississippi. NIDA spokeswoman Shirley Simpson told the New York Times, quote, as the National Institute on Drug Abuse, our focus is primarily on the negative consequences of marijuana use. We generally do not fund research focused on the potential beneficial medical effects of marijuana, end quote. NIDA presently oversees an estimated 85% of the world's research on controlled substances. Commenting on NIDA's admission, NORML's Deputy Director Paul Armina said, quote, NIDA's finally admitted to the world the catch-22 that's been plaguing medical marijuana patients and advocates. Lawmakers demand clinical research regarding the safety and efficacy of medical cannabis, but the agency in charge of such research denies these studies from ever taking place. It's tragic that these public officials have let political ideology, not science, determine Americans' health decisions, end quote. In 2007, the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, Administrative Law Judge Mary Ellen Bittner ruled that NIDA's monopolization of marijuana research is not, quote, in the public interest, end quote, and ordered the federal government to allow private manufacturers to produce the drug for research purposes. In January of last year, however, DEA Administrator Michelle Lionheart set aside Judge Bittner's ruling. This week, President Obama announced his selection of Lionheart to be the DEA's new director. From Seattle, Seattle's newly elected attorney Peter Holmes, city attorney, will no longer prosecute minor marijuana possession offenses, according to a report published in the Seattle Times. The Times reports that Holmes said, quote, the city of Seattle is no longer going to prosecute marijuana possession cases anymore, end quote. The Times reports that Holmes has already begun dismissing cases that were filed by the previous city attorney, Tom Carr. Holmes defeated Carr in the November 2009 election. In 2003, Seattle voters approved Initiative 75, which required that the Seattle Police Department and the City Attorney's Office shall make the investigation, arrest, and prosecution of marijuana offenses when the marijuana was intended for adult personal use, the city's lowest law enforcement priority, end quote. In 2008, citywide review of the ordinance reported no evidence of any adverse effects from the implementation of I-75, including specifically, number one, no evident increase in marijuana use among youth and young adults. Number two, no evident increase in crime. And number three, no adverse impact on public health. And just in closing, we have a few rapid national headlines. The Washington Times, a conservative District of Columbia newspaper, said in an editorial today that the office of the drug czar in the United States should be abolished. That's the head of the Office of National Drug Control Policy. Once the conservatives start saying that, we see times are changing. From the Idaho Mountain Express, we hear that the city of Haley, Idaho, has recommended that marijuana be the lowest law enforcement priority there, following Seattle's lead many years ago. From Topeka, Kansas, a medical marijuana bill is now on the floor of the Kansas House of Representatives, according to a report in the Kansas City Star that came out today. And a new bill from Colorado's lawmakers want to put a moratorium on dispensaries in Colorado, where hundreds have sprung up in the past year, and only allow nonprofits to operate those dispensaries. So that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. Now we've got some music from Mr. Tim Pate and John Cornett. How are you gentlemen doing?
I'm doing fine, John. You?
Very good.
Right on.
All right.
Ready to play.
Okay, well, why don't we go? We'll just go to it.
you very much.
Thank you.
Sounded nice. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Hey, we are ready now. We'll be taking your phone calls. If you have a question regarding ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, or helping medical marijuana patients, then give us a call at 503-288-4448. I guess we have a call already. Hello, caller. You're on our show. Welcome.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Tim.
Howdy.
I've got two easy questions. One, I need to put my name on the ballot to get for OCTA 2010. And last week you said the address was 5226 Northeast Sandy Boulevard.
You know, it's 5220.
Oh, 5220.
I was off, but it's open. It's upstairs. And so I hadn't been there. Yeah, it's 5220. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I may have been the one that accidentally put a 6. But do you know what avenue of Sandy? Because I've lived in Portland all my life, but it could be near the river, or it could be out by the airport.
It's right above a printing press place. I know that.
A printing press place?
Yeah, exactly. It's in. You've got to go up a flight of stairs to get to the office. But it's right off of Sandy Boulevard.
All right.
Anyway, right on Sandy Boulevard there.
And maybe I could call information. Would telephone information know the...
I'll tell you, call Democracy Resources.
Democracy.
Democracy Resources. It's the OCTA office. We've hired them to carry out both a fundraising campaign and a petition drive. You know, it's they're professionals, and they've done it for the minimum wage here in Oregon, for the AFL-CIO, for a lot of different issues, a lot of arts issues and other things. And they do it nationally as well.
All right. Because I'm going to be, I guess they're not open tomorrow, but next week I'm planning to be.
I think they might be. You know, I can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
But, next week's probably a safer bet.
Yeah, definitely.
One place to get in touch with everyone there is through
Voter Power.
Facebook.com/OCTA 2010.
Yeah, I went onto that website and tried to get as much information as I could.
Yeah, so if you go on and just leave a note through that, they'll get back with you right away.
All right, that sounds
There's
good.
a couple of folks who work with Democracy Resources, Kendall and Andrew, who are there ready to help.
All right, and the last question I had was, when I know that you and some of the people you know prefer soil as a medium to grow cannabis.
Personally, I do.
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, I've seen hydroponics done, pretty well as well, and have worked on them at times. But soil's much more forgiving, if you ask me. You have room for error, and your plants can survive a little bit more. Makes it a little more likely if you are prone to making errors.
That's one of the many things I learned about a week or two ago when you talked to some people on your show about that, was that soil is more forgiving. And I remember Tim mentioned that he paraphrasing what he said he's seen hydroponic plants go bad overnight if the mixture wasn't right.
Oh, I've seen that many times and heard of it dozens or hundreds of times.
It's a heartbreak when you see a beautiful plant one day and the next day it's gone.
Yeah.
It's just gone. No recovery.
Right. Well, the last question I had was, do you know whether with hydroponics or maybe even soil, the three main fertilizer ingredients, there's nitrogen, two others.
Potassium and phosphorus.
Yeah, do you know what the best balance for those is when...
Well, during the vegetative cycle, the plants will use a lot more nitrogen, so you want to get that first number, the N, to be higher. And then once they are into the flower cycle, they need more phosphorus and potassium and don't need nitrogen very much at all. And so, and then there's a lot of trace minerals out there that are useful. Most of those you can get from organic kelp and seaweed, just powdered down.
That rings a bell. I think I've heard you guys talk about it. So when they're flowering, they don't need very much nitrogen, but they need phosphorus. And what was this third one? Potassium.
Yeah.
Potassium, all right. But if when growing hydroponics, is there a number that's like, I thought there was a particular number for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium?
Well, there are a variety of ones that will have different numbers. It depends on the mixture you're getting, but you'll see some that are like, for flour, 20.55 for the potassium and phosphorus. That's parts per 100, I think. But don't quote me on that. But those are, those numbers vary from product to product out there.
Yeah.
And it's wise to look at, what you're putting in there. And I prefer organics myself, and so there's certain foods that have more potassium and phosphorus, and some that have nitrogen.
Well, I learned something right there, and that is that during the growing cycle, it's not going to be the same. You know, when they're sprouting and growing height, they need lots of nitrogen apparently, but once they start,
they don't grow as much or as fast once they start flowering. Once they start flowering, they'll grow another foot to foot and a half.
Yeah.
But all of that's probably going to be the flower sites if it's allowed to
bloom and sprout.
go to a sensimilla crop.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week I'll try to make it out to get my name on the ballot because I know how important it is to all of us.
Great. We appreciate
I'll try to find them. I'll follow information.
Well, you know, the ballots actually are not ready to sign yet.
Oh, they're not.
Just this week on the 2nd, we got the 2 ballot titles in. And we had a meeting and decided that we're definitely going with the one that focuses more on industrial hemp and that would set 2% of the proceeds aside from the sales of marijuana to adults for the promotion of industrial hemp products. 1% to promote hemp biodiesel and 1% to promote hemp food, paper, building materials, and all the other products associated with industrial hemp.
That sounds
and so,
good too.
Our other version would not have done that, and so we're going with the one that stresses the hemp more. So we made a decision to move forward with that. We're going to be polling as we start the petition drive, but we don't have permission yet from the Secretary of State to start that. We have to get our petition format approved and the paperweight approved. So we're probably not going to have that ready for about another 2 weeks.
All right.
Before the Secretary of State's got a lot of things to do, and approving our petitions doesn't go to the top of the list.
Yeah.
And so we have to wait for them to process that and come back, and there could be some changes they want to the petition format, so we have to make that and then resubmit it, and hopefully that'll be good enough and we'll be able to move forward at that point. But if it isn't, we might have to redo a couple things and resubmit it again. But generally we expect to be through with that process definitely by the 1st of March.
All right. Well, I watch your show every week, so when it is, I'm sure you'll let us know.
Sharing it, but if you want to go by the office and get involved, hey, there's no problem with that, but we don't have the petitions ready quite yet. But we have made some crucial breakthroughs. We have a really firm ballot title in question that we think serves our issue well. It talks about industrial hemp. Prior versions of our ballot title hadn't mentioned industrial hemp at all, so by focusing some of the proceeds on that and expanding the focus, we think that that'll become more of an issue in the campaign, and we hope to make it an important one that distinguishes us from other bills out there.
All right. Last of all, I just remembered, this is just a suggestion. When I was a student at Portland State University just two and a half years ago, I don't know if the administration will let you guys go down there, but if you can go down there and set up a table, because other people like the right wing have done it. If you can go down there and ask students for their signature on these petitions, there's a lot of students. I mean, you'll have a lot of signatures.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, and
yeah,
you just have to go and get the permission from the local office there. If you have students who want to help, then they can form their own groups to do just that.
That's true. I thought about that. Right now I'm not a student, but I know there's a lot of students down there who would sign it, especially if there's a table set up.
Yeah, so they just have to be registered to vote.
All right, thank you.
Main thing.
Yeah, we previewed a movie down there, Plant the Seed, just a few weeks ago on Portland State's campus.
Yeah, which detailed a few hipsters back in the 90s and so on.
Along that same line, too, we're having a benefit on Friday night for
the 12th. That's true.
Next Friday night, excuse me.
Yeah,
I should say that since we're doing this live Friday night. But if you're not watching this and it's not a Friday night, you're probably not seeing us live. So just wanted to warn you there. Don't call in. But next Friday night, there are multiple groups playing. Pass Margot's playing. Jim Matheson from the Herbivores at Seattle Hemp Fest. Sidecar Rennie is going to be there.
From Seattle.
Yeah,
and,
myself.
The Native American Drum Circle put in an appearance as well.
Yes.
Y-East drummers.
Good. And then my band is going to play as well. Russ Belville will join me, and Kenny Davis, and John Cornett. So we should have some fun that evening. Please come out.
Yeah, so that'll be at 700 Northeast Deacom Street in the Village Ballroom. It is a place you have to go up staircase, so it's not handicap friendly, unfortunately. But It's a site we have, and it'll be a kickoff and a fundraiser for our Cannabis Tax Act petition. You can find out more about that petition at octa2010.org. If you have a question for us tonight, and it's Friday night, February 5th, call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your phone calls right up to the top of the hour.
Now, we've got the normal, just like to mention, the Cannabis Cafe is at that same location, 7 Northeast Deacon. And if you haven't had a chance to come out yet, I urge you to do that.
But you have to be a medical patient for that.
Yes, you do. And you also need to be a member of Oregon Normal and then join the cafe. But also, Madam, would like to express a desire for any of those of you out there who have any excess. The cafe is run solely by donation, and so if you have any excess right now, the cafe could use some of your donations. So I'd like to pass that along. Simple as that.
So if you are out there and you want to give us a call, once again, the number is 503-288-4448. We have a few big items out here for our show and tell session here. I got a big container of hemp seed. I got to figure out how
Where'd that come from?
Open this up. This is from Hemp Oil Canada.
Yeah. Oh, good.
This is really a tasty thing. It's the hulled hemp seeds. It's not the
make a mess up here, but we'll
get
this done. Here, I'll hold it. You pull it.
We got it.
All right.
There we go. I'll have to pass this out to the audience.
We do have a live audience. Let us know you. Hey, here, come on.
After the show, though. There you go. There it is. A tub.
Ooh, that looks
it's
good.
Hulled hemp seeds. You
I know
just,
that's good stuff.
Try a little bit of it. It's a lot like cashews and walnuts. Has an after flavor kind of like walnuts. We have a caller on the show. Hello, caller. Welcome.
Hi.
Good.
Well, I was wondering where new patients can get their meds, because I'm a new patient, and I just don't know. I mean, I've been trying to look through your websites and everything, and I can't find any way of getting meds except for going through dealers.
It's difficult in Oregon, and there are things opening up. There's this Cannabis Cafe. As a patient, if you're a card holder, you can go there, and they give away free cannabis. You have to pay a membership fee, and there's a door fee of $5, I think. The membership fee's $20 a month and $35 a year. And that's for Oregon Normal. There are other groups out there like Oregon Green Free and others that can help you. But coming by the normal place is a good place to start. Also, they have a once-a-month meeting that you don't have to join the Cannabis Cafe to attend. You just have to be a member of Oregon Normal and have a medical marijuana permit. And that happens on the second and fourth Saturday of each month at 11 a.m. So you want to make it down to, once again, 700 Northeast Deacon Street. That's just about 3 blocks north of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And on Saturday, the 2nd, not this Saturday, I think it'll be on Saturday the 13th.
You're correct.
And that would also be the 27th, I believe, the 13th and the 27th this month. And so those would be the days to go down to that. And then the Cannabis Cafe is open Monday through Friday, I believe. Then there's several websites. If you come to our clinic, we have a private website where patients can help each other. You can go out to that forum. And there are other forums like that, but person-to-person ones, the 700 Northeast Deacon is a good place to go.
Okay, yeah. I've been there, and the only bad part about that is I usually like to take my medication at home.
Right.
And
well, it's a good place to meet a caregiver, or if you can't grow yourself, or if you need plants to be able to grow. You know, that's a good option.
Yeah, I've got one clone, but I'm still waiting for it to grow.
It takes a while. You know, you take a clone, and you're talking a 6-month ordeal. And before you start making flowers, you need to make clones yourself, because then you want to have a perpetual garden. You've got to learn to make the clones of the clones before you start making flowers.
Okay. And
so it's a long road to hoe, pardon the pun. but it's worth it in the end in terms of lowering the cost of your cannabis.
Oh, yes. Also, I've turned down my TV as soon as you started talking about the hemp seed, and I was just wondering where I could get that from.
It's in a lot of health food stores. You can go to most of the health food stores out there and find it. I buy it in bulk. First of all, I've got to preface it with this statement that this is a public access cable television show in a non-commercial environment, and we don't want to be the ones to violate that or bring commerciality into it. However, we do show a number of hemp products, and so we try to rotate those. So with that said, none of these products, by the way, have been provided by the manufacturers either. I've gone out and bought them with my own money. In some cases, like this hemp paper, I actually produced this as a business for a while. These are antique down here. But I've been out of the hemp business since '97, about the time this show kicked off. But these two products here, these hemp oil in capsules and the hemp seeds, which are pretty inexpensive in this big bucket, came from Hemp Oil Canada. So they have a website, hempoilcan.com. Okay. And so I just ordered over the phone and got it about a week or so later. This stuff here, the hemp milk, you can get it all over the place. I have seen it in Fred Meyer. I've seen it in...
It's good. This is good
I've
stuff.
ordered hemp lattes at 4 different places this week, different little coffee stands here and there. The ones at the hospitals, they always have hemp milk there. That's a little tip for you. I saw it at OHSU and at Providence Hospital. The coffee stands there all have hemp milk if you ask for it.
Oh, wow.
And lots of other ones out there you can go up and get hemp milk from, too. Starbucks hasn't done it yet.
How is the hemp milk for people who are lactose intolerant?
What was that?
I'm lactose intolerant.
Well, hemp milk would be a good alternative for you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's lactose-free, gluten-free, high. It's the highest source of omega-6, 3, and 9, the essential fatty acids that wipe out the bad cholesterol. It's got a lot of health benefits.
And as far as taste?
It's great.
It tastes great, man.
Okay.
It's better, if you ask me.
It's less filling.
It's and these seeds, they are so good. If you like cashews,
they are good.
You will love hemp seeds, I'll tell you.
Actually, I have a can of cashews right with me, so.
All right.
There you go.
Okay.
They're really good, only they're so tiny.
This is a non-commercial commercial.
Yeah. We're for hemp in general.
Yes, we are.
And our proposal, the Cannabis Tax Act, would legalize industrial hemp and set it up in an unregulated environment. And cannabis smokers, 2% of their proceeds would go to promote industrial hemp products to return to their rightful place in our economy and ecology.
But if you're a medical patient, you would not lose your right to grow for yourself or anything, like that.
In fact, just the opposite. You wouldn't have to get a license to grow anymore. Anybody over the age of 21 would be able to grow their own without a license of any sort whatsoever.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, even, I'm before I hurt my back, I was totally against the hemp act, or the
medical marijuana issue.
Medical marijuana. I just thought it was a reason for people to sit around and get high. Mm-hmm. And
now
after hurting my back, I found that was the best painkiller ever.
Yeah.
We've helped over 100,000 patients get medical marijuana permits across the United States, and in meeting thousands upon thousands of those people one-on-one, you just see an enormous amount of relief. They're able to get off dangerous narcotics and improve their quality of life. And one thing, though, they often ask, why do we have to come in here and get this permit every year? And that's something that we're trying to resolve with our Oregon Cannabis Tax Act proposal, petition. And it would set it up where anybody could grow it without any permit. So, and we think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it should be. It should have been like that all along. I mean, I'm a far right-winger, and I was furious when I found out, everything I heard about marijuana was a lie.
Yeah.
Listen, we got a question from our studio audience member and a videotape we're going to roll here. So we appreciate your questions and thoughtful responses. Thanks for giving us a call, and call us back sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'm glad you saw the light.
You're all welcome out there to come on down. We have a live studio audience, pretty good size one this evening, and you can come down every Friday night here to 2766 Northeast MLK. And we have a studio audience member right now. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening.
Quick question and a quick comment.
Okay.
The question is, why in the 21st century do we still have to treat a healing herb as though it were a criminal? The comment, I'd like to update some information for people who were members of the OMCCC. Like everybody to know that Eve is fine, and asked me to extend her sincere apologies to all the people in OMCCC who have not gotten their medicine as a result of certain problems that members of the OMCCC had. And I don't believe there's a mean bone in her body. I believe she's sincere in saying that. And so all the patients that she has not been able to get a hold of, if you'd like to get a hold of me either after the show or call down to Paul, if you'd like, he'll have my phone number there at the clinic, I'm sure. Anyhow, just wanted to extend her sincere apologies and let everybody know that she's healing but getting better, and medicine will be on the way soon.
All right. Well, thanks for your comments. Now, I think the reason that marijuana is illegal is because they created this misinformation campaign back in the turn of the century in the 30s, when they being the rich industrialists who controlled the country, and who owned things like the Hearst newspaper chain and the DuPont Chemical Company and Standard Oil. They all saw that industrial hemp, with the invention of new machinery that made it labor-free to cultivate, where it had previously been one of the most labor-intensive crops, much as the cotton gin a century earlier had dropped the cost of cotton to a fraction of its prior cost, the new machinery, the decorticator, dropped the price of industrial hemp products. And so the powers that be created this myth and gave us the name marijuana, and prohibited something that everyone knew how to grow, industrial hemp. And everyone knew what hemp was. When they said there was this deadly new drug called marijuana, they didn't realize that was industrial hemp or cannabis either. And so they managed to criminalize this based on a bunch of lies that were based on racism and propaganda, and we've just been living with the repercussions of that ever since. And so it's taken a while, but eventually, hopefully, the truth will come out. And we've got an initiative on the ballot in California that would allow individuals to grow personal use marijuana and allow municipalities to regulate the sales of marijuana and tax and regulate it. We have our OCTA petition here in the state of Oregon to end adult marijuana prohibition and restore industrial hemp and help medical marijuana patients. And up in Washington, they've launched the Sensible Washington campaign, which would edit the Washington marijuana law to remove marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act in state law. So we could see 2010 usher in a whole new age of cannabis freedom here up and down the West Coast.
Amen.
And so that's what we're working for, and we could certainly use your help. We have a film clip we're rolling. We'll be back to take some more calls and questions, and have a little more music too, so stay tuned. Tune in. Turn on.
I first came here to Oregon in the 1970s. Me and Captain Ed, my son Dan, took a trip to Oregon in 1974 or 5. And I came back here in June of 1984. And they were in the of an initiative, wonderful initiative, and we only have about 40,000 signatures to go with 17 days left in the whole getting signatures. And we bought a bunch of people from California, and we said we will get it on the ballot. And we did. And we got the signatures. They didn't believe we did it in 17 days. And then about a month later, after we were accepted onto the ballots, they said, you're not going to the ballot. You are 150 signatures short out of 100,000. So we went back in there and we said every signature, and we won about 700 more signatures than they counted, and they agreed. But they said it's too late. You can't get on the ballot now. We printed up the ballots. It's too late. You have to go next year. And we bid. We were mad. In 90 days, from the dime, we get the initiative, we got the signatures. And we got 1 year to go out and say them. In 1986, my friend, Captain Ed Adair, and me, we wanted to stay in Oregon until we got it legal. We got a store, the Third Eye on Hawthorne. And
let's have our hands in this.
Hey, welcome back.
Oh, you caught us. Very good.
So that's Jack Hare on the hemp stock stage. I think that's 3 years ago at the Selwood Park.
Yep.
And Jack Hare had a stroke at our Hemp Stock Festival last September 12th. Has been recovering from that, but there's a fight over custody of him. And just this week, we're happy to report that his family regained control of his health, his son and his wife, Mark Hare and Jeannie Hare, and this other person who'd had a kind of unusually drawn up medical document, was who had been working with him, had lost custody. So that's a new report that we can give you. We have a caller who's standing by. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi. Hey. My question is I have some plants growing, and this has happened to me twice now, and I don't quite know what's going on. I must be doing something wrong, but they grow just beautiful. They're in the flowering stage. About 3 weeks before their time, about half of the plant, and what's weird is it'll be on one plant in one pod. Half of it's perfect, and the other half, the plant is just dying. The buds are just, everything's turning brown, and it's starting to come apart rather than stay tight. And I've checked my pH, and Have you checked
your humidity?
Do you think it could be humidity?
It could be a mold or mildew issue. Well, if your humidity is really high, then that stuff can take over pretty darn quickly. Have you checked that?
Well, yeah, I have a special unit in my room that sucks out the humidity. It stays pretty dry in there, and then also after I water the plant,
as long as it's lower than 60% or 50%, you should be fine.
I don't have I haven't tested that.
Yeah, you should look at that, and if it's higher than 80%, you can look at that as the probable cause. A lot of mold and mildew problems have sprung up over the years. Some of us think perhaps certain mold and mildews are introduced by the federal government. It's not paranoia if they're really after you, folks. And it's so I recommend a dehumidifier and lots of ventilation. Dehumidify that air so you get your humidity level below 60%.
You may have to clean that.
Below 50%, ideally.
Below 50%,
and keep your room clean. You should clean it with Lysol or bleach or some nasty kind of carcinogenic causing substance.
Flamethrower.
All right.
No,
I will try that then.
Cauterize everything. Yeah, look at your humidity. I hope that's it. There's also a book out there that helps you diagnose plants and shows you leaves and all kinds of things. It's George Cervantes' Marijuana Horticulture. And you can look at various pictures and figure out if you have nutrient deficiencies, and tells you which nutrients are mobile. Those are the ones that the plant can move around inside the plant, so they show up at the bottom of the plant. And are the ones that are immobile, which can't be moved around inside the plant. Those show up at the top of the plant. But it's a great resource.
Yeah.
All right.
And you might be able to cross-reference what you're looking at on your plant with that book directly.
And expatriate Portlander who moved to Spain when G.W. Bush was elected. Anyway.
Now, what was the name of that book again? I'm sorry.
Marijuana Horticulture. It's got like over 1,100 color pictures. It's less than $25, and on Amazon.com you can get used copies for $5.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
That's what I'll do then.
Yeah, it's a good resource. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and then it'll probably solve a lot of your questions about how to proceed. It really will.
That's what we recommend to all of our patients who come through our clinics.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
You bet. Good
we
questions.
have a studio audience member who has a question here. Go right ahead.
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
How are you guys doing?
Good. Thank you.
I'm a new card holder, and I've been told that my caregiver is legal to smoke. Is that true?
Say that one more time.
I've been told I'm a new card holder, and other card holders have told me that it's legal for my caregiver to smoke.
In
Medical?
Oregon, technically, that's not legal. However, if he's not subject to your analysis or anything, there's no one's going to go test him or anything, or her. But, however, in this state, that isn't legal. In Montana and in some other states, they say that caregivers can smoke, but Oregon's law doesn't allow caregivers to smoke, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Caregivers are allowed to possess marijuana under Oregon's medical marijuana law. They can grow it and they can transport it. They can't technically consume it. And we have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi, I have a question. Can we make gasoline out of the biodiesel?
Yeah, it can be. But the biodiesel, which will run any diesel engine with no conversion to the diesel engine, is just pure cold-pressed hemp seed. They have to learn how to process petroleum to make it like vegetable oil so that diesel engines could burn that. But you can process biodiesel into gasoline, and basically anything that you can make out of petroleum, you can make out of hemp seed oil and many other vegetable oils with little or no toxic byproducts. What I often say is look at the Exxon Valdez when it dumped its load of oil up there in Alaska back in the 80s. It killed so many animals and poisoned the environment to this day. But if that had been hemp seed oil, all those animals would have thrived and it would have helped the environment. So, it's just, it doesn't have all the toxic byproducts that petroleum has. Near these oil refineries, those are just highly toxic areas, and a lot of the children born in those areas and people who live in those areas have a lot of terrible diseases. A lot more so than people.
The question I had then, if you can make gasoline out of the biodiesel, how efficient would that be, and would it be economically viable in the long run?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm sure it would be. I haven't actually done the studies on conversion of hemp seed oil, biodiesel into gasoline. That's a little beyond my technical expertise. But, if we had these generations of engineers who studied petroleum engineering to learn how to reorient petroleum molecules into products, instead focusing on hemp seed oil and biodiesel and other seed oil products, we'd see a lot more wealth in the United States, a lot more equal distribution of wealth, and a lot less, no importation of foreign oils, and a lot less world hunger, because the byproduct of making biodiesel, you get 300 gallons an acre of biodiesel, and the byproduct is 6,000 tons of this high-protein hemp seed meal.
Good stuff.
So, with corn fuels, they talk about how it takes almost as much energy to make ethanol from corn as it does to use the ethanol as a fuel, and it reduces the supply of corn and drives up the price of food. When hemp biodiesel is used, it's going to wipe out world hunger, and we're going to see, a lot more protein, a lot healthier people, and a reversal of greenhouse warming and a lot of other good things.
Hey, I guess there's an independent film out there called Fuel.
Yes.
And
Josh Tickle, the producer of Fuel's been here on this show.
Okay,
and,
great.
Though he doesn't focus much on hemp, he does mention it a couple times in his movie, and he's a supporter. So, yeah, that movie talks about the toxic problems with gasoline and petrochemical production.
Well, I understand one of the reasons why Prohibition came about wasn't because they were trying to stop people from drinking, but it was, according to him or somebody else that did a film similar to his, it was because of the Standard Oil didn't want Henry Ford. I guess Henry Ford had about a third of the motor fuel market locked up in the Middle West.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly what Josh Tickle documented in that movie, Fuel. You can find out more about the movie. I think it's thefuelmovie.com, or just do a Google search out there on the old internet for Josh Tickle and Fuel, and you'll find their website quickly.
Hey, the final point I wanted to make was we would have at least two celebrities that I know of, Brittany Murphy and Michael Jackson, probably still alive, if medical cannabis was available and legal to those people. The witching brew of toxic pharmaceutical products that these people were ingesting is just beyond belief. And then look at Tiger Woods. He probably should have been given a sobriety test with his little mishap that he had down there. And, he was one on Ambien and who knows what else. If he would have just had some cannabis, and isn't there, and I don't use cannabis myself, but I understand there's probably 200 different types of cannabis or more. And
more than that, yeah.
And there's probably a particular kind of cannabis for just about every kind of medical problems, whether it's people not being able to sleep or pain or whatever. And so he could have had some kind of cannabis specifically for his problems, and he'd probably still be married, and he wouldn't have went screaming down the driveway backwards and crashed into a fire hydrant in a tree, But,
you just never know about that one.
Just wanted to point that out.
I do agree with the Michael Jackson thing 100%. If he'd been using marijuana instead of whatever the pharmaceutical analgesic they pumped into him, we would still have him here today. And that's true of so many different pharmaceutical and alcohol-induced deaths out there.
Yeah.
So it's a shame we keep driving people to alcohol and drugs, and we do that through marijuana prohibition. And a lot of those people said if they had marijuana, they wouldn't be using methamphetamine. If they had marijuana, they wouldn't be using cocaine. And so when marijuana is legal, at least they'll have a safer alternative.
Hey, that brings me to another point I just happened to think of, is all these children nowadays are trying all kinds of ways to get high. They're choking themselves. They're doing this asphyxiation thing. They're huffing paint fumes and gas fumes and stuff like that.
Are all very dangerous, we know.
And I don't, as you guys have said before, you don't believe in giving children cannabis. But I tell you what, if I had a kid, I would rather have him having cannabis than alcohol, sniffing paint fumes, or trying to choke himself, because he can't die from cannabis, but he can die from the other things very quickly. And I know that for a fact because about 15 years ago, I went to one of my coworkers' son's funeral, who was about 14 years old, who had been sniffing paint fumes the first time he did it, and he died.
There you go.
That's a shame.
So,
that's a shame.
I believe that it'd be a hell of a lot safer to give,
he'd be with us today if he'd used marijuana.
If the kids just got to get high, say, hey, okay, kid, tell you what, try a little bit of this, and then knock it off, but these kids are getting, they're killing themselves left and right with all these stupid techniques, and it's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah, it's deadly.
Well, thanks for your call and your insight there. We appreciate your
I appreciate your support, even though you're not a cannabis consumer. I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. Take care, man.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
So, yeah, we're driving kids to drink. We're driving kids to try these dangerous things with Prohibition and the lies about marijuana. They try marijuana. They see those lies, aren't true, and or they see it in other people's reality, and they come to think that, maybe these other things aren't as dangerous when they truly are.
So true. Unfortunately, our show probably isn't shown very much where cannabis is still illegal. They're not quite as enlightened, so unfortunately we're probably preaching more to the converted than the non-converted out there, but it's a shame that...
It's getting out in the wider area. Now we're in Michigan. We're about to start out in Boston. We're
exciting.
About to start opening a new clinic next month in the state of Rhode Island. So we're be coast to coast.
That's coast to coast.
Coast to coast.
That is.
Here we're winding up. I just want to go very quickly. Here's some nifty hemp paper. You can't buy this anymore. It's an antique, but it's...
Because you won't sell it.
Because I didn't run the business enough to keep things going back in... We folded back in 97, but it's 50% hemp and 50% straw notebook filler paper. And so this was a very popular item back in the day. And then we have these nifty little hemp pads and things. Next door, this is a modern-day product, hemp seed oil. And you've heard us talking about the tasty hemp. We just got a teeny tiny label on this thing. You can hardly see it. I guess this is there and you can repackage it yourself. Next door, this is actually in a new package now. It's not, this is an old package. This is an expired product here. Vanilla hemp seed milk from Living Harvest, but there's a lot of other products out there. This one is incredibly inexpensive and very good. Nature's Path organic hemp granola. It's all just very healthy food. So hemp does a million different things, and we're on the verge of trying to restore it. If you want to find out more about our efforts to end adult marijuana prohibition, go to OCTA2010.org. That's OCTA2010.org. There it is. And if you want to find out more about how to become a medical marijuana patient, we have doctors all over the United States that can help you do that. If you have a qualifying condition, just call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you're watching outside of the Portland area, the number to call is 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. And then always go to our web portal there at hemp.org to all the different websites that our organizations have started and are working on. So take a look at that. I want to thank you for watching. We're going to go out with the tunes again of Tim Pate and John Cornette. We want to legalize marijuana. No more legalize. It's time to legalize and restore hemp. Thanks for calling and watching. Here's Tim and John. Good night.